Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Look at my intro slide. Isn't that different? Yeah, my name's Nathan Clapp, senior product designer at Magic Eden. But before I was a designer, I was actually a magician. And today I want to talk about magic. When it comes to products, right, surprise and delight in a product is something we're always aiming for. It's something that makes users fall in love with your product. But how does that look in Web3? And then just some thoughts on that. And I'll get to why I titled it Magicians in Space. But first, I want to open up with a little demonstration, actually, because you got to have a hook in any talk. So I'm going to do it with this piece of paper. I don't think people on the stream are going to be able to see this, so they'll just have to believe me. But if I take this piece of paper, hopefully, if I just put it on my hand here, I can get it to stick to my finger like that, and then I can actually get it to levitate. A magic trick. Why does that feel like magic? What is magic? Why did that feel magical? Well, you could say floating is magic in general, but I don't think it's that. Fundamentally, I think that it's this set of constraints that we have in mind, that we all agree on, right? We live on Earth here where gravity exists, and we know that, right? And when I break that constraint, it's unexpected, it's a little delightful. But if I did that exact same thing, say, in space, it wouldn't be as magical, would it, right? The context is different. So that's the key here. I think that context and understanding what's expected and then breaking through that is what causes magic. So what does this have to do with crypto? So I'm going to make an analogy. I love analogies. My analogy is that Web2 users, the ones we want to bring into the space more, right? Let's say there are people used to space. It kind of works. It's more frictionless out in the Web2 world. You swipe your card, you log in with Google. It's become quite easy. And us over here in Web3 land, there's a lot of constraints we work within. You know, to try to build things proper on chain, there's a ton of constraints that we know about, right? We've spent our time to dive down the rabbit hole and learn why it's important. But we can't expect new users to take the time to learn that too. And we shouldn't, right? So how do we break through and make magical experiences? Because you can do all this work to make an elegant product, and then you show it to the world and you realize it's not as magical to them because they don't understand the constraints we're working within. So how do we create magic? So I brought one example today. A company we recently acquired at Magic Eden is a company called Slingshot. They create a mobile-first token trading app, and there's a lot of magic in it. And I want to talk really lightly behind the scenes what they do. It's fully on-chain, non-custodial, but it does feel like a familiar app. And really quickly, I'll just run through this, but say a user wants to get onboarded, they want put some money on the app. Well, they have their familiar cast characters here. Let's say they just put $100 on the app through Venmo. They have $100. That's what they see. However, under the hood, we actually abstract it away, but they have USDC, and again, it's in their own wallet. And in fact, some users, after trading a lot, could have USDC on a bunch of different chains. And again, we don't show them that, though. We just show them what they need to see. But it's actually super important that they have that. So if I go to the next side of things, on the Slingshot side, we always have like deep liquidity reserves of USDC on a bunch of chains as well. I'm just showing the same three here that I'm using as examples, say Sol, Base, and Barachain. But we have a bunch of them. So that's a setup. And in a typical transaction, they say they want $80 worth of PopCat. Okay, they sign an off-chain transaction. They sign it, no gas or anything. It includes their intent and a resource lock, which is essentially locking up their USDC, the amount that they need for the trade. Slingshot essentially uses a relayer, and we use our liquidity reserves on the chain of choice, which for PopCat would be Sol. That follows through, the transaction goes through, and the resulting PopCat goes to the user. As soon as it hits their wallet, the resource lock unlocks, pays out the liquidity reserves on their respective chains. Pretty elegant system. I love talking through it because I think it is fascinating, especially for people here today. But in the end, everyone's whole. You got your $80 PopCat, you got your $20. To the user, they don't see any of that. So this is how it looks in real time. I just bought $80 PopCat and recorded it. This is how it looks in real time. a lot of delightful moments in here as far as like the actual UI goes, which kudos to the team that designed it. But that's not what I'm talking about. I want to talk about the experience. And I guess the question is, why do all that work under the hood to get what looks like maybe a familiar app? And this is where I think my whole point is that I think the magic should be coming from and empowered by the fact that we're building on chain, and that's where they're going to feel it. You can abstract it all away and make it feel super familiar, and in fact, it's the experience of it that's going to shine through. So in this case, why do all that work and make it look familiar to user? Well, because this is one thing they'll feel, and I think it's one of the biggest, that you can trade anything instantly. So a lot of us know here the feeling of being able to go on Jupiter or something like that and immediately find a meme coin that just launched, and you can trade it. But if we're bringing in new users, they don't know that, and you cannot get that with a centralized app. But with Slingshot, anything that goes out, you could trade your Sol or your Bitcoin, of course, but if you want to trade a new meme coin that just dropped on the chain, you are touching the chain with the system, and so you do have access to that. So that's a magical thing for new users. Your dollars, they're actually USDC under the hood, so they're more powerful inherently. There's things you can do with USDC that they're going to feel. Even just like taking your money off the app, they might get hit with a bit of delight, realizing they don't have to wait 1 to 2 business days. They could just take it off to a personal wallet. And then, anything that's built on chain, tool-wise, that you could use, like limit orders, DCA, anything that continues to get developed, we can take advantage of and pass that on to the user because they are fully on chain. So these are just some examples, but I think the point is, and what I like to make the point is just that I understand, especially being in the space for a while, and some of these talks we're talking about it, that we can get we can be very proud about some of the ways we abstract the complexity, knowing what constraints we have in the Web3 space, but we can't expect new users to know that. And so I know that it can feel like we're trying to perform levitation to people in space, and then explain why it's so great sometimes. But if they didn't know the rules or constraints, would it still feel like magic? I think that's the challenge to everyone building products out there that I would put out there. Would it still feel like magic to them if they didn't know all those constraints? And hopefully, if we keep this in mind, we can all become better magicians in space. Thank you.